Okay, so this week's theme that is coming up in many different forms, mostly in the groups that I've been leading, but also apparently in the podcast that I watched that had me feeling a little concerned, is this, the idea between things that make our life, or things that are easy and things that provide ease or create ease in our life. And it's a subtle distinction, sort of, but it's an important one. So if you'd like to do this little activity, you can pause this video and then just kind of quick write or write down, jot down any thoughts that come to mind, just thinking about where you think this is going to go, and then unpause it and come back. All right, so if you're still here with me, let's just dive into it. So the way that it came up was kind of a couple different ways. So my groups are mostly yoga based, and we talk a lot about mindfulness and how mindfulness is a pathway to self-awareness, and the importance of self-awareness being that we need to be connected with ourselves, so that way we can be aware of thoughts, feelings, behaviors, sensations in the body. That way we can do something about it, right? Like, cool to be aware of what's happening, not so cool to just sit in that unless they're like positive and joyous, right? So when we have dysregulation or we have uncomfortable feelings, we want to know what they are, so that way we can do something about them. So here's where ease and easy come in. Easy often will be the things that we do to potentially get immediate relief or benefit. So with my clients at treatment, easy for them, sort of, right? It's like a relative concept. Easy sometimes has been using drugs or alcohol. Does it impact them in other ways? Yes. Is it maladaptive? Yes. But in that moment is the easiest thing to do to manage their suffering. Ease would be to do the work to address the underlying suffering and the trauma. And so several of my clients were sharing how in their sessions they've been bringing up some traumas with their therapists or with their sponsors, and how it has created this like discontentment over the course of several days, almost kind of like an emotional hangover. Like they were having a lot of somatic symptoms, so a lot of just like fatigue, tiredness, headaches, muscle tension, those sort of things. So it was kind of unexpected, because we would like to think that if we are going to share these very personal, vulnerable parts of ourselves, that after we're sharing, that is just one and done, right? Like, I told you this horrible thing that happened to me, and now I'm going to wash my hands of it, and now I'm done. And that's just not the way it works. Oftentimes it stirs up a lot more stuff. All the other times that you've felt whatever it is that you've been feeling, so whether it's scared, agitated, unloved, you fill in the blank with whatever your experience or somebody else's experience has been. But now we have multiple moments where we've experienced that, and so now we are more distressed than when we began sometimes, because now we're thinking about all those things. And that's what happened to several of my clients. The other piece is it's not necessarily clinically indicated to just force people to bring up their traumas, right? Like, as a therapist, sometimes I have to do it when I'm doing an assessment, and I usually pre-frame it with or preface it with, hey, I'm going to ask you some things. I know that this might stir up some stuff, so if we need to take some time to talk about it, then let's do that. I apologize for kind of just like jumping right into these next questions, and then I'll ask the questions. So that way it kind of front loads them a little bit and lets them know something's happening, but it still is an insensitive approach, 100%. It's just, I can't really do my job well if I don't have a strong assessment, and the only way to have a strong assessment is to ask them lots of questions about their life. So ultimately, which we talked about in the groups, is that the hope is that you have a good therapist, you have a good connection, or you have a good relationship with a sponsor, or a pastor, a friend, a mentor, something like that, to where you start sharing some of these pieces in small tolerable doses. And I can't tell you what a small tolerable dose is. You kind of have to decide that and use your own discernment of like what is challenging and uncomfortable, and what is not going to overwhelm your capacity to live your life. And then from there, you will be loved and supported, hopefully, right? Your therapist or your friends might give you some tools to use, some things to try. And then you kind of, over time, start reducing the distress or the dysregulation associated with those events. And it's a long-term benefit to provide ease in your life. But it's hard in those moments because you're stirring up a bunch of stuff up that you haven't wanted to stir up. Prime example in my own life is when I was married. We struggled for years, and I knew that there was challenges in our relationship, and I knew that I had to address them, but I was scared and I didn't want to. I didn't want to have those conversations because we didn't have a history of having tough conversations and resolving them well. I had lots of my own stuff going on. I didn't want that that rejection, that loneliness. I didn't know how to navigate conversations like that well because communication is not a strong suit of my family. It's something that I've had to learn as an adult. And so I avoided it for a long time. The easier thing for me to do was to avoid it and to just work, try to pretend that they didn't exist, take on project after project, start a business, have kids, foster dogs, you name it, remodel kitchens, like you name it, I tried it all. In the back of my mind though, there was always that hey, you're not getting what you need out of this relationship. You're not able to grow and expand. So in order to find ease in my life, right? In order for me to be the best version of myself, in order for me to move towards a relationship that was fulfilling, I had to stir up all this stuff that we didn't address in our marriage and, share the concerns that I had about it. Ultimately having to leave the marriage because we just couldn't resolve it in a time frame that was going to work for me. It was never easy. But now I have ease in my life. Is there still some struggles? For sure. I wouldn't want to say that rainbows and unicorns happen. I'm just not there yet. But has it provided some ease? Yes, my life works a lot better for me. I feel like I can be the best version of myself now. There's still lots of challenges. They're just better challenges than what I had before. So I want you to think about that, especially if you're watching this because you're in your own, you're in a place where you're maybe doing some healing or you're just trying to navigate an area of difficulty, and maybe kind of use that framework as what am I doing that is easy? And sometimes we have to do that, right? Sometimes we have to take the easy road because we don't have the bandwidth or capacity to deal with things. I don't have the best relationships with my biological family, my family of origin, certain people in it, and I'm struggling with those right now. What I'm doing to that feels a little easy is just not deal with it because I know I don't have the bandwidth. I'm raising 3 kids. I have other relationships that are difficult for me that I'm just trying to navigate with compassion and the least amount of frustration as possible. And so I know that I'm kind of maxed out, and when I have a little more bandwidth, then I can divert my attention over to those relationships. I'm just not there right now. So yeah, am I kind of doing the easy thing? Yes, but I'm also trying to create ease in the other parts of my life. Also, yes. I think in the next couple days to weeks, that's going to change. And so I'm going to pull off the easy break, and I'm going to look for more ease and more long-term gain in those relationships, and really have to sit and look at what is it that needs to be said, or what is it that needs to be done in order to be in integrity with myself and address the challenges that I see in those relationships. There's a lot that I'm going to have to take responsibility for. I'm not saying that's other people. There's a lot of things that I've done or continue to do that need to be adjusted, or at least brought to the surface, communicated more effectively. So that's, I don't know, I'm starting to ramble on, but that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, and what many of the conversations that I've had this week have been about is, am I taking an easier approach? If so, is it safe, right? Because for my clients who are struggling with addiction issues, safety, it needs to be a safer approach. But if it's within a realm of safety and it's something that's not going to potentially cause me to lose my life or somebody else to lose their life, then can I continue to do this until I can free up some space to then move into the work that needs to be done to create ease? Again, that work is not going to be easy. It's probably going to be harder. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be taxing, but it is a long-term payout. So you will have this kind of upfront investment of lots of pain and tears and dysregulation, distress, and then hopefully over the long term you won't have that as much. So if you have any questions, you are welcome to message me. You can leave some comments below, I always love feedback, and yeah, I hope y'all well.